Welcome to Monday, March 10th, 2025. Well, as we embark on a new week, for a fair part of this week, there really isn't going to be much going on. So we'll get more of that snow melting, a lot of that snow melting over the weekend in many areas, and we'll continue to do that. As a rather windy period, the winds aren't going to be crazy bad, just persistent, but this will lead to mild temperatures as Pacific air will flood the region. So watch out for some gusty winds in the usual wind-prone areas. Now, we do have a weak system in Southern California that'll kind of go across the southern tier of the West, across Southern California, the desert states, and then into the southern plains. Those areas will get a little bit of shower and thunderstorm activity, but it really won't be much of a weather maker. That storm system we've been watching, the 14th and 15th of Saturday and Friday, Saturday, that is definitely going to be a strong storm, but it's just going to miss the mark in terms of it really blowing up and being a huge storm, but it's going to be impactful, especially out in the plains. The high country of the Rockies will get a good shot of snow, but it will come together a little too late to become what we'd call a front range storm, more of a northern plains storm. The pattern, though, is sort of repeating itself. If we go back and look at what happened a week ago, we had a strong plains storm. We had a break, then we had another storm come in that was more impactful in the Rockies and less on the plains. We're basically going to see that again. You'll see this during the course of the season. You'll get one pattern, and that other pattern will show up again, and that's exactly what's happening. So it's probably the second storm, the one that's coming in next week, that's going to be more impactful for the Intermountain West. The first storm, a plain storm. The second storm, an intermountain storm. That's exactly what happened about 10, 12 days ago. So we're going to see the pattern repeat. Snowfall shots coming in from late last week. Lander, Riverton area in west central Wyoming really picking up the heaviest amounts of snow where that upslope was deeper. And that is where the snow really piled up. Really good water content with that. And the satellite photo, when skies began to clear this past weekend, this is a satellite photo from Saturday. You can see the extent of the snow went from far northwest Illinois all the way back here. So you can see the snow cover on the ground accumulating from that storm late last week. Beautiful shot there near the Douglas area of the clouds. Sandhill cranes are thick in southwest Nebraska. And a little bit of snow late last week in northern New Mexico where they needed it. Hopefully there'll be more on the way. There's another shot of the deep snow in the Lander area and the elk making tracks. Elk are waiting for spring, and elk hanging out there by Lander Valley High School. And you're going to see situations over the course of the next couple of weeks where there's snow on the ground, then there isn't. Kind of back and forth is exactly what you'd expect this time of year. Lots of high-level lenticular clouds there up in north-central areas of Montana over the weekend with the geese taking a view. And as we go through this week ahead, it will be a pattern of a lot of high mid-level clouds, some lenticulars, but through Thursday, pretty mild conditions. Nice shot there on the eastern side of the Sierras. Some fresh snow up there and more Sierra snow coming with this storm here later this week. Satellite photo this morning. There's that little swirl off the coast of Southern California. It looks pretty impressive, but as it heads east, it just really doesn't have a good moisture source to pull in any decent moisture. Here's your high-level clouds. This is where we'll have some lenticulars. This will be where mid and high-level clouds will be found from the eastern side of the Cascades through the northern Rockies into the northern plains. This system up here in the Gulf of Alaska will be the weather maker for Friday and Saturday. So this is where we are today. This system off the coast of California, the system in the southeastern United States, the only real weather makers across the United States with high pressure in the middle. By Wednesday, that California low is all the way into the panhandles. Along its path, a little bit of moisture, but not a lot. Here's the next digger. The system digging into the west coast. This will bring heavy rain and significant snows to the Pacific Northwest and the California coast as it comes in. This will be a good shot of precipitation there for the west coast. There's also going to be plenty of wind. Between now and Wednesday, the northern plains up here from Montana through the wind-prone areas of Wyoming Just the jet stream is close up here, and it's just going to be windy. It's just a west to east flow. It's just March. So these aren't crazy winds, just persistent winds, although the wind's getting pretty gusty up in North Dakota, down into West Texas here, and you can see the winds increasing along the west coast in advance of the storm. We're going to come back to the wind here in a minute because it's going to be impactful in some areas with the Friday-Saturday storm. So between now and Wednesday, this is what the precipitation looks like. Very much associated with that upper low, more showers for Arizona and Southern California. Starting to see the moisture from that storm in the Gulf of Alaska getting into the Pacific Northwest here by the end of the week. Temperatures pretty mild. Look at those temperature anomalies out into the plains. The Chinooking effect of the westerly winds, you can see really keeping temperatures along and east of the divide above average here for the next 4 to 5 days or so. The blue, the cooler weather because of the storms moving off the west coast and inland. So as we get into Wednesday, we're looking like this. By Friday, watch what happens between Wednesday and Friday with that low off the west coast. It digs in very rapidly and intensifies over the Oklahoma and Texas panhandles. Now, a lot of times, these storms will cut off from the main flow and kind of wobble and bring persistent upslope to the Front Range areas. But they've got to slow down. They've got to slow down for that to happen. This storm is not going to slow down. Now, I think what's going to happen as we go deeper in the spring, especially April and the May, systems are going to start to slow down. And the opportunity for those upslope patterns to get more well-developed will be there. But not yet. This upper level low is going to form rapidly. As it comes across the divide, it will produce, as you'll see in a minute, some good snows in the mountains up here. And then it's going to reform into the plains. As it gets into deeper moisture into the plains, it will become a more intense storm. But it's not going to develop and get mature enough to bring that deep upslope to the areas along and let's say that I-25 corridor area, as you'll see here in a moment. But as it heads north into the northern plains there by Saturday, it will be a strong storm for the northern plains. There'll be a band of heavy snow on the backside of this. A lot of wind will develop near and on the south end of this storm, and we're going to have severe weather breaking out here. As the storm comes through, especially in this part of the country right here, there's going to be a severe weather outbreak. Then here's the next one queued up coming in right behind it. So I wanted to show you the precipitable water forecast to kind of highlight where this storm is going to be more of a plains, northern plains storm system. This shows where the deeper water content of the air is starting just before the storm. This basically starts late Thursday and goes into the weekend. You can see the curl that forms as the low intensifies here in the Midwest, and the blue and the purple and the dark green showing where the good water vapor is to generate the heaviest precipitation. What you don't see is the swirl able to bring the moisture back into here. Initially, there's a good axis of moisture that comes through right here. But then it really doesn't get formed, the deeper moisture, until it gets up into the northern plains. There really is not a good tap from the Gulf that you need for a front range or high plain snow event. There's going to be some snow and wind with it into these areas here, but really focus it on the mountains. And then you will get on the plains, the northern plains, a pretty good storm. Then that severe weather going there. The second storm system is going to be the one that's going to be more impactful. So the pattern is the same thing, a plain storm, then a storm more into the interior west. This is the total precipitation through Sunday. So you can see the deeper, heavier moisture is going to form up here. You're going to get heavy snow on the backside of the system and a lot of wind. You're going to get severe weather here. And then as the system comes off the west coast, you can see the mountains are going to get some snow. So the high country will get some good snow out of this. It'll be good for the snowpack. But you can see there's a little bit of a gap here between lighter precipitation and then the moisture gets deeper again out into the plains. It's just moving too quickly. And that's what your snowfall totals look like through Sunday. The mountains do really well. You get east of the mountains, not much. Then the plains, you start to get the better precipitation, heavier snow up into Canada. The central and eastern Dakotas, maybe even parts of the northern parts of Nebraska here. Livestock interests in this area here. Pay attention to this Friday, Saturday into early Sunday. So livestock interest in those northern plains, this will be a little rough. It'll be windy, it'll be much, much colder, and it will be wet. That could be a concern for young and weak livestock. Look at the wind that develops with this system Friday and Saturday. Very strong winds in New Mexico and West Texas into southeastern Colorado, western Kansas here, then strong winds as it heads up into the northern plains. This is going to be a really bad, another period of high winds down there. That's where the severe weather is going to be as we get into the Friday, Saturday time frame. So that'll be something to watch out for. The second storm system, this is the AI version of the European, comes in and is tracking slower, and it's going to bring deeper moisture into the region. So we're thinking Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, this area here has a better chance of more widespread snow than the first storm system. And then we have another one queued up that will come in about 3 or 4 days behind that one. Have yourself a good Monday. We'll have more for you tomorrow.